Peace everyone, Unmask Art here, and welcome to another episode of Peaceful Pastels. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day. In today's episode, we are going to be creating a fun mountain landscape with a tangerine sky. The colors we'll be using today are from the Season 1 Starter Pack. Get your starter pack today using the link in the description, and make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss new episodes. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first thing that we need to create for our lovely mountain landscape is going to be the sky. And we're going to do this sky a little bit different because it is going to use the tangerine color that we have in the Season 1 Starter Pack. Of course, we don't want it that bright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the cool gray number 1. And this is how we're going to actually build up our sky. So we're going to go about halfway down the page. And just like previous episodes, we're just going to apply a nice generous amount of this gray. Really cover up the paper. We're going to use a little bit of this gray, and we're going to also use a little bit of white also, just so it's not darker than what we need. Now the reason that we're using the gray here is to control the saturation. The gray will help tone down the bright colors that we're going to apply into the sky. So I'm going to grab the white now, and just apply a little bit of white, brighten up the sky a bit. Today's episode is going to be a little bit difficult for some of you. Got to increase the challenge level here. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to use a little bit of our powder blue. I'm going to have some blue in the sky. So just up at the top, I'm going to apply a little bit of the powder blue. Maybe a little bit of the light cobalt also, just right up there in the corner. Just a small amount that will blend out. A really small amount. Now I'm going to grab our zinc yellow. I'm going to apply a little bit of this zinc yellow. Now the trick when you have skies like this is going to be like an early morning sky. When you have skies like this, the trick of transitioning from your yellow into blue is actually to have the gray buffer in between. So if you mix, usually if you mix blue and yellow, you're going to get green. And I don't know if I've ever seen a green sky before, but the way that transition works is by using blue. Next color we're going to use is the tangerine color. I'm going to use that down at the base here. So a nice tangerine sky. And before I mix that, I'm going to apply a little bit more of the cool gray number 1 right over top of it. So a little bit more of the cool gray. We can always bring the saturation back, so there's no harm in applying more of the gray. So you can see that that's really toned down that tangerine color. I'm going to switch back to the tangerine and apply a little bit more down in the base. This down here at the base of the sky, I want the tangerine to be nice and bright, and then as it goes up, I want it to kind of fade into the yellow. So I'm going to grab the zinc yellow and apply just a little bit more of that before we blend this out. There we go, just like that. Now I'm going to grab my trusty little blending brush here, and I'm going to start in the bottom area of the sky and just start blending out the tangerine. And I want the paper to be completely covered. Make sure that I have enough pigment on there. So I think for the next layer what we'll do is we'll incorporate a little bit more of the white just to brighten up the sky a little bit. We don't want the sky too dark because it is going to be an early morning sky. So we'll utilize a little bit of our white on the following layer. Now you'll see here that the tangerine transitions really nicely into that zinc yellow. And then that zinc yellow is going to transition right into this gray here. We've left a little gap of gray between the yellow and the blue. And that is how you avoid turning your sky green, is that you have that little gray buffer in between the blue and the yellow. And see how natural that transition looks as it turns yellow to blue. And that gray is what allows us to do that. There we go. All right, so we're going to get ready for our next layer here. We're going to utilize all of our colors again with the addition of white, just to lighten up the sky a little bit so that it's a bit brighter looking. So we're just going to start with a quick light layer of white. Just come in here with the white very, very lightly. Just apply some of that. This is going to brighten the sky. It's also going to pull out some of the color. Applying this white is going to pull out some of the color, so we're going to have to add some more of our tangerine and zinc yellow and powder blue and light cobalt to the sky. But we want the sky to be bright, so this is just going to lighten it up a little bit. So let's go back through our colors. I'm going to grab the tangerine color. Mix in a little bit of tangerine on top of that white. Gonna add a little bit more down here at the bottom just to have it nice and saturated. There we go. Let's go up a little bit higher. There we are. Now I'm gonna grab the zinc yellow, apply some of that. I'm gonna come down with the zinc yellow a little bit farther into the tangerine. Go up to about there. There we go. There's nice yellow. Now let's grab our powder blue. Apply that again up at the top. Now remember to leave a little bit of a gap between the powder blue and the zinc yellow, because you don't want to mix the blue and the yellow together. Don't want to change your sky green. Go all the way up to the top with the powder blue. And then we're just going to touch the top with the light cobalt. Just up here in the corners a little bit. There we go. All right, now let's blend this out once again, and we should be good. You can do this several times to get the exact color and tone of the sky that you want. If your sky just feels a little too dark, add a bit more white and then apply some more of your color to it to brighten the saturation. And if you feel like your colors are just washed out too much, like you applied too much white, then just incorporate a bit more of the tangerine, zinc yellow, and all of those colors to bring back some of the saturation. Now the trick here is to just apply a little bit at a time and then blend it out and see how all of the colors combine and work together to get that exact color that you're looking for. You don't have to apply too much to make changes. Just a little bit of color added will go a long way, especially if you have several layers of the pastel on the paper. There we go. Mix that powder blue and light cobalt really, really well. And we are left with just a fantastic morning sky here. Just like that. Now, before we move on, we are going to add some lavender clouds. So, I'm going to grab the pure lavender color, and I'm going to add a nice set of lavender clouds up here, and these are going to be those clouds that kind of sit on top of the mountain. So a little lavender cloud there, and then a little one right below it. And then I'm going to use the zinc, I'm going to use the tangerine color to highlight the bottom of the cloud. So here's a little bit of that sun touching the bottom of the cloud. And let's just blend those clouds out a little bit. Soften the colors a bit, just make them look more cloud-like. And then we need to add just a touch of a shadow. And to do that, I am going to use the dark violet. So just a little bit of the dark violet on the top of the cloud. There we go. Tiny shadow. Now you might be asking yourself, why is the shadow on the top side of the cloud? And that is a good question. So when the sun is just peeking over the horizon, clouds that are nearest to you, say these clouds here that we're creating, the reason the highlight is on the bottom is because the sun is actually shining up at the clouds, as opposed to usually being thought of being above the clouds. And so that's why you get the tangerine highlight on the bottom and the dark violet shadow on the top. All right, so there are our mountain clouds, and next thing we're going to do is add in the mountains. Okay, so to start our mountains, we're actually going to use probably a color you weren't expecting, but the cyan color. So we're going to start with the cyan color. We're going to come up here, we're going to draw the top of our mountain. It's going to be a big mountain. It's going to look almost more like a hill. Just something like this. And we're going to come down, say we're going to come down to about here. And we're just going to kind of fill that in. Our mountain's going to be complemented by the tangerine color really, really nicely. Now, just like we did in the sky, we used the grays and the white to control our saturation. And that's the same idea that we're going to utilize in our mountain here. And that's what makes this project one of the more difficult ones that we've done so far in this series. All right, now that we have the cyan in, what we're going to use is the darker cool gray number 6. I'm going to start bringing in some of this cool gray number 6 to tone down that cyan a little bit. Just going to kind of scribble in a little bit of this. We're going to have to do several layers on our mountain to kind of get it looking the way that we want. So don't worry too much about any lines that you might create with the cool gray here. Just kind of apply a little bit of it to tone down the cyan when we mix it. There we go. And then to brighten it back up, we're going to use the cool gray number 1 because it's a little bit dark the way that it is right now. So just want to brighten it a little bit so it's not so dark on the paper. There we go. Now to bring back some of the blue, we're going to use the light cobalt. I'm going to use all the colors in our mountain here. All right, let's go ahead and mix this, blend this out, and just kind of see what our color looks like once we do that. So I'm just going to start here and mix everything together. Now utilize your tool to get a really nice sharp edge for your mountain. So I'm going to take this tool and really use it to sharpen the top edge of where our mountain meets the tangerine sky. You're going to notice that that tangerine color is going to pop through a little bit on your mountain. That's not a problem. We're going to apply more layers anyway. There we go. Now we got a nice edge, we can just kind of blend out the rest of it, see what we're working with. Not too bad. All right. So now what we need to do is add some details to our mountain. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the dark violet to bring in some much needed shadows. So I'm going to kind of use the dark violet to add the shadows to this side of the mountain a little bit. Notice that the shapes that I make for the shadows, they always kind of fall down the mountain. So there are always kind of lines that are moving down the mountain to create the shadow. All right, that seems pretty good. Now what we want to do is we want to darken it even more, and so we're going to use the cool gray number 6. And this is also going to pull out some of the saturation there, kind of turn it more into a gray, make it look a little bit more natural. So I'm just taking the cool gray right over top of my dark violet color. All right, now to add a little bit of a snowy look, add some snow to our mountain, we're going to use the cool gray number 1 and essentially just work in some highlight areas that are going to lighten the mountain, kind of create the illusion of snow. So all of that space in between where we added those dark violet highlights, we're just going to add a little bit of snow. And again, notice that all of the directions that I'm creating kind of flow down the mountainside. So they're all working their way down the mountain. All right, let's go ahead and blend this out and see what we got. I'm just going to start in the shadow area. We can always add more colors. So if your snow gets too dark from blending, you can always add a little bit of white to brighten it up. Also, just with the same way that I applied all of the pastel kind of flowing down the mountain, I'm also blending that same way. So you kind of want to work your colors in the same direction when you're blending them as you applied them. There we go. Yeah, so my snow kind of dissipated, kind of melted a little bit. So I'm going to utilize some of the white to just brighten up the top part of the mountain a little bit. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of white here to brighten the snowy part of my mountain. All right, let's blend this out, see how that works. Yeah, there we go. Now it's looking more snow-like. Let's see, I'm going to add a little bit of lavender up at the top. This is going to brighten things up as well, so help make it look more snowy there at the top. Perfect. Just want to smooth it out, make my mountain nice and smooth. I don't really want a lot of texture because the mountain is really far away, so there's not a lot of details that show up in focus. They're all kind of relatively soft. There we go. And let's see here. I'm going to use a little bit more of the cool gray number 6 to just reinforce some of the shadows. And some of the texture detail. There we go. Now let's just blend those out a little bit. All right, now it's time to start adding in some of the tree lines that happen in front of our mountain. So to add in our tree lines, we're just going to grab the cool gray number 6. And we're going to draw the top part of everything that's separated from our mountain. So just the top edge, and there'll be, some kind of smaller mountain-like hills in the area here. So we're just going to add some kind of pointy, jagged rocks and trees that are going to fall in front of our big mountain. So something like that, and then there'll be another one right here, some jagged trees, another one over here. Let's put one nice long one there, and right like that. There. Pretty simple task. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to take our blender and we're going to drag that gray straight down. So we want the top edge to be kind of dark, and then we just want it to kind of fade into the blue. Just a nice sweeping motion down. And then once you have that, you can blur it a little bit more down at the bottom by blending horizontally. Now our trees look a little bland, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a dark violet and basically work this color right over top of that gray, and bring in some nice violet colors. Something like that. Maybe add, maybe add a little bit of our olive up at the front. So start incorporating a bit of the green that exists in the trees. And just a touch of olive. Maybe in the back, let's use a little bit more of that light cobalt. So we'll just incorporate a bit of the light cobalt in the back part of the trees, whatnot. all about the color diversity. There we go. All right, now let's just do the same technique. So we're just going to kind of pull those colors straight down. And then once we pull the colors down, the bottom part, we just want to blur it. So we'll blend it horizontally like this. And there we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the base ground that's going to be up in the front, and then we're also going to add a little pond up here, kind of reflecting the sky, reflecting the mountain. And actually, to do that, what we want to do first is apply the colors that we want to reflect. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the cyan color again, and we're just going to kind of create like a reflection of the mountain. So the mountain is like real big up there, and it's kind of coming down over here. So this is kind of the mountain space for our reflection. And let's add a little bit of our cool gray number 6 just to darken that cyan a little bit. So we want to kind of get general colors that we have in the mountain. Let's add a little bit of the light cobalt and maybe a little bit of the lavender as well. So just sprinkle in some lavender in there too. And then of course we need the tangerine sky. So just going to add a little bit of the tangerine right around the mountain. I'm also going to utilize the zinc yellow. So let's add some of the zinc yellow in there as well. And then to kind of tone down those colors, we'll use the cool gray number 1. And a sprinkle of white. So a little bit of white in there as well. All right, now let's just blend this out. Might look a little strange at first, but the reflection in the water will make sense once we add all of the grass around it and whatnot. Just want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Let's add a little bit more of cool gray number 1 on our mountain here. And a little bit more of the cyan. Try to get rid of some of those lines and streaks that are showing up there by applying more pigment to the paper. There we go. That's a little bit closer to the color. Now let's add a little bit more zinc yellow to the sky and some more of the tangerine. having the blue right next to the orange and stuff does make it a little tricky to blend out. Let's add some of the cool gray, number 1. Try to create a buffer around the mountain so that these colors can blend a little bit easier. So let's go back with the tangerine. Try to get this color to show up a little bit more vibrantly without being contaminated so much with the blue. All right, let's give that a try. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yeah, that's better. Now let's try to pull the color into the mountain. Try to make it a little bit softer and blurry. All right, I think that works. Once we add the grass around it, add some context to it, it'll start to make more sense. So to start with our grass, I'm going to use the burnt sienna. And let's see, let's just cover up what we have here. And let's try to draw the pond. So the pond is just going to be kind of an oval-like shape. Something like this. And then let's just cover the ground around the pond. All right, and before we blend, let's go ahead and add some of our olive color to get that green into the grass. There we go, a little bit of green. Let's add some leaf green also. This is going to all mix together. This is just going to be the foundation for the grass. So there we are. And a little bit of black for some of the darker areas that are going to be in the grass. So more up front, kind of right around the edge of the pond here, creating kind of a shadow. All right, that should be good. Let's go ahead and blend that out. Now this is just going to be the foundation for the grass. So if it looks a little brown, don't worry about it. We'll add some more of that nice leaf green to bring out the nice color of the grass. You can also use some of the sky color to brighten it, some of the blue. You can use all kinds of colors in the grass. There we go. All right, now it's time to get into the grass, and you should be pretty familiar from the previous episode on how to do this. So the first color I'm going to start with is the leaf green, and I'm actually going to do the grass very, very short. So I'm just going to be doing a lot of little dots, kind of tapping my pastel onto the paper, and this is how we're going to create the grass. This can be relatively time consuming to do, but you're going to get the best effect by doing this. So take your time with it. You don't have to be super skilled to do such a thing. It really is just kind of tapping the paper with the pastel. And you can do this with all of the colors that you want. You can utilize the black to create some of the shadows. You can utilize the yellow, the zinc yellow for some highlights. You can incorporate some blues, some lavenders, just whatever color that you feel necessary to incorporate, any color that you want. You could use some of the tangerine if you wanted to, really just about any color that you have in the Season 1 starter pack you can utilize in the grass here. Really is non-specific to any particular color. One thing that you do want to try to avoid when doing this is creating any sense of pattern. So you want to space out all of your little dashed lines completely unevenly and random as possible. Honestly, if you look away from your paper every now and again, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Just so that you kind of blindly start applying dots, and that will help create a little bit of randomization for you. So after we do some dots with our colors, then you're just going to kind of gently blend the grass in the direction, so vertically, just like we did with the previous grass project. You always want to kind of blend in the direction you want the texture going. Alright, let's utilize, I think I want some of the zinc yellow, so I'm going to use some of the zinc yellow here. Not a lot, just kind of like on the top edge of where my grass is, kind of has its own horizon. So something like this. And let's see, let's use some black for some nice shadow areas. All right, let's go ahead and blend this out, see what we're working with here. So like I said, you want to blend real softly, and you want to blend in the direction that you want the grass going. So I'm going to kind of keep it a vertical or slightly vertical direction. And you can do this several times to really get just a whole bunch of texture and detail in your grass. So I'm going to leave it like that for now and rework it later. But what I want to do is I want to add some close-up trees, a lot of evergreen trees up in the foreground to really kind of start finishing off this project. So to start the trees, I'm just going to grab the black and kind of start right here. Yeah, just going to kind of start right here. Work my way over. And I'm going to just start with the kind of the tree trunks. Just going to do trees of varying heights here. Every once in a while, just kind of throw in a nice tall tree. Have some shorter trees in the back here. Something like that. Kind of fading away into the back. Nice small trees. And then for some of these closer up trees, just kind of give them a little bit of a body. Something like that. All right, let's blend these trees in the back a little bit. Just kind of get rid of the grainy texture that the pastel leaves. And then all of these trees here, I'll kind of use the side to get some points for the tops of the trees. So these are kind of trees that are starting to get closer, but still kind of far back, so they don't really need any details. Go. Now let's add some trees up in the front. Let's go ahead and put one like right next to the water. Maybe a tree right here, tree right here. Let's do maybe a nice tall tree here. Maybe have one go all the way up into the sky a little bit. Nice tall tree. And then just add the bodies of the tree. You just kind of want to make them triangular shaped, kind of with horizontal lines. You just slowly get wider as you get to the bottom. You got to use like the sharpest edge that you can get on your pastel, but you can get a pretty good looking tree. There we go. The trick to getting these trees looking good is to leave spaces, to leave some spaces between your lines. You want to let some of what's behind them kind of show through a little bit. So you don't have to cover the trees completely with the black. You want to leave a little bit of space there for the background to show through. There we go, there's a nice tree, or set of trees. Let's maybe add a little one here. Let's put one up in the foreground. Maybe let's put one coming up here and here, here and here. There we are. Now, to just make the trees a bit livelier up in the front, we'll just utilize, I don't know, some of the leaf green, I think. Some of the leaf green to just give the trees a little bit of extra texture. So some of those dashed lines are now just going to be kind of highlighted with a touch of the leaf green. Let's maybe do a little bit of highlights on some of these larger trees over here. And then what we also need to make sure we have is the reflection of the trees in the water. So I'm going to switch back to my black. I'm going to come here. Now I'm just going to kind of mirror the trees in the water. Maybe this tree pops up a little bit there. This tree is going to creep in there. These trees are going to creep in there. Now we just got to make the trees but upside down. So they're going to be wide on top and then real small on the bottom. Then of course we need to kind of smooth them out a little bit in the water. Careful not to spread that black into the brighter colors too much. Now what I want to do is I want to use the white to create the water line a little bit. So I'm going to use an edge of the white, kind of break the ground away from the water. Something like that. And maybe just a few little ripples A few little ripples in the water. Make sure you blend out that water edge a little bit. You don't want it to be kind of rough like that. So just use like the tip of the blending brush, smooth that out. And the last thing that I want to do is I want to create a little bit more grassy texture, but I don't want to throw 1,000 dots at it. So I'm just going to grab my craft knife, my leaf green. I'm going to come in here and do this little trick that we did previous projects. Just kind of scrape off some nice leaf green into the grass. I'm going to do the same thing with the zinc yellow. And do the same thing with some black also. And I think that looks good. Let's go ahead, grab our glassine paper here. Let's quickly give that a rub gently. Make all that new grass texture stick. Last thing I want to do is just use the leaf green to add in a few longer bits of grass. Just up in the front here, just a little bit of extra texture. Just going to kind of smooth it out with my finger. There we go. And I think that does it. So let's go ahead and peel off the tape, revealing the nice clean border. This is my favorite part. I love revealing the clean border at the end. And here we are, everyone, our finished painting. I hope you enjoyed following along on this project. I would love to see what your pastel painting looks like, so when you share it on social media, be sure to tag it with hashtag Peaceful Pastels. Thank you again for watching, and make sure you are subscribed to catch the next episode. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.